And all 30 athletes are on the field for this event. We begin with those 30 toes to bar. After that is the 1.5 mile run, then another 30 toes to bar, another 1.5 mile run, and then a final 30 toes to bar. 92 total scored repetitions in this event.
When you look at this in total, it's 90 toes to bar, 30 toes to bar at a clip, but really those 30 toes to bar are basically nothing for the caliber of athletes that we have in this field.
And this is what Tia Toomey has been doing so far. Nothing outside of the top 6 and 5 event wins.
I mean, we're talking about a dominating performance overall. Tia Toomey, definitely one of the best to ever do it, but Hulta, this is a great event for Hulta, but it is also a good event for Haley Adams, who has been trying to climb out of that hole she dug herself yesterday from event 6 and 7.
And just about every athlete, in fact, all the athletes are now done with their first round of 30 toes to bar, and now they embark on that 1.5 mile journey around the Alliant Energy Center here in Madison, Wisconsin. Sam Briggs is at the bottom of your screen, and it looks like she overtook Kristen Hulta. And when you know you're on a long run like this, a 1.5 mile run, these two are obviously going to be towards the front.
Look, I realize this event has toes to bar written in it, but it is a running event. This is a pure running event. Instead of, let's say, water stations at your fun run 5K, it happens to be toes to bar stations instead. And the benefit here is that the run, you're looking at 1.5 miles, even if you're just, I mean, at a decent clip, you're looking at 10 to 12 minutes per on the effort. That's a difference between probably a 6 mile pace, 6 or 7, and you'll see a lot of your elite athletes be able to hold that. When you look at that type of time frame, 12 minutes, a 30 toes to bar effort is going to take 60 seconds, maybe 90 seconds if you take a couple breaks. So if you think about that, it's purely based on your ability to push the run the whole time. And if anybody's going to do that and do that well, it's Sam Briggs.
And Sam Briggs is 65 points back of Alessandra Pacelli. Briggs is 27th place overall coming into this event. She has to make up 65 points on Pacelli, and anything towards the front of this event would absolutely help her in that cause.
Sam Briggs is going to set the pace, and she's going to be able to keep it. We've seen the damage she's been able to do at trail runs at the ranch, and that's with elevation, sand, dust, all that other mess that was in the hills in Aromas, California. Now you're just talking about a road race. Makes it too easy for Sam Briggs.
Sam Briggs has 11 event wins in her career here at the CrossFit Games. Briggs down the main thoroughfare here at the Alliant Energy Center. The Coliseum is on her right, and then she will make a left turn to come back here into the North Park.
How comfortable Sam Briggs looks.
Kristen Hulta followed by Tia Toomey, Chrissy Aramo O'Connell, another athlete you would expect to see up front. Tia Toomey, Emily Rolfe, Haley Adams is there as well. Jacqueline Dahlstrom in that lead pack.
Now for Haley, who's sitting on the outside of the podium, about 6th place, is that she needs to stick with these girls at least on the first round and possibly make a move on the second.
Kristen Hulta is in a battle with Amanda Barnhart for 3rd place overall. Barnhart trails her by just 6 points in the overall standings.
And thinking about the difference between the two, Barnhart isn't a bad runner. She actually fares pretty well in distance events at the CrossFit Games, always being in that upper top 15 position. But Hulta is one of the best. She's one of the best stride for stride with the Tia Toomeys, the Aramo O'Connells, and the Briggs. But Haley is as well. Haley's one of those athletes that can make the most of the position she's in, because she doesn't necessarily have to beat Tia in this or Hulta. It's going to be pretty hard to do that. But standing between her and a podium position, you have Horvath, Barnhart, and Wells, that Adams is much better at in this particular event. But what she needs is help. Her getting a 3rd or 4th place position doesn't help if they get a 5th or 6th behind her.
Samantha Briggs trying to stay alive, work her way inside the top 20. Getting set to make a left turn and emerge onto the field here at the North Park. and start her second set of 30 toes to bar. And Briggs will have to return to her lane. They have 2 laps. It's a 3-lap circuit. It's a long run.
It's a circuit of running.
2 laps on the run.
I think the pace she's holding at the moment is that you just did what's effectively an 800-meter lap. We said the time frame is about 5:15 when she came in. That's including the 30 toes to bar she did at the buy-in. So the pace Briggs is holding is right around that 6.5, 7-minute pace.
Emily Rolfe has moved into second place behind Briggs. Tia Toomey is behind her in the leader's jersey. Haley Adams and Kristen Holta are there as well. And Chrissy Ermo O'Connell. The usual suspects out front on this run.
Rolfe definitely being one of those, say, endurance-based athletes, and that's a major advantage, not just for this event, but for the entirety of the weekend.
She's in 15th place right now as Emily Rolfe with 456 points. Only 43 up on Alessandra Bocelli, and we've seen some very large point swings in some of these events, so that is certainly not a safe lead for her.
I said that race for the top 20 is really centered around about 6 athletes. Bocelli, Clifton, Turner, Dahlstrom, Riley, Mikulishin. From 20th down to 25th. There's only 21 points between them, and as you said, the scoring has changed because we went from 40 athletes to 30. So when we had 3-point drops early, or 3-point drops in the 40, now it's 4. And to get 20 points on someone earlier, you're going to have to get about 9th place. Here today, it's only a 6th or 7th.
It is not that hot as far as the temperature is concerned, but with the humidity, it is steamy out there right now. It's only supposed to get up to about 81 today.
When you couple that with no cloud cover, it doesn't have to be hot outside for the sun to have a major effect on your core temperature. And what that's going to do is it's going to increase the stress, it's going to increase your fatigue, it's going to increase your heart rate, and all of that is going to play a factor into your fatigue level as you navigate through these runs.
Talked about Haley Adams earlier. She comes in 6th place overall. She is in that lead pack. She's chasing both Brooke Wells and Amanda Barnhart, the next 2 spots above her in the overall standings. Adams just 2 points back of Brooke Wells and 20 points back of Amanda Barnhart, and she is ahead of both of those athletes on this first 1.5 mile run.
And that's a difference of 6 spots. 6 spots on the leaderboard to get those 20 points back in one event, and not just 20 points back, but 2 spots back.
Alessandra Bocelli currently would be the last woman in, 413 points, just 1 point up on Laura Clifton. Ellie Turner 10 points back. Jacqueline Dahlstrom has to make up 17 points. Both Mackenzie Riley and Sydney Mikulishin also have a chance of getting into the top 20.
I think an advantage here for these athletes is the fact that it is 2 laps per every effort on the run, because if it was just one big loop, it's really hard to gauge and pace as you move through this. In fact, this isn't the first time we've had 2 1/2 mile runs within an event. The very first event we had here in Madison, Wisconsin was the Run Swim Run, which is a 1.5 mile run to the lake and then a 1.5 mile back. Now that was a straight shot. You had an advantage on the way back because you had some markers, you had some milestones out on the course, and that actually has a really good way to help yourself pace it. You're out there because not many people are wearing watches, there's no clock out there. So the fact that you have 2 laps times 2 is you can start setting markers of where you should push, where you should pace.
Sam Briggs followed by Emily Rolfe. Rolfe in her 2nd career CrossFit Games. She was 18th in 2019. Her mother was a former Olympian. She threw the javelin.
I love that event. I mean, what better motto is like, I bet I can throw that farther than you can.
And now Sam Briggs will return to her lane and start her 2nd set of 30 toes to bar.
Every athlete at the start went unbroken on the first set of 30. And there's really no reason why you wouldn't see that again. but it's okay if you need to take a quick little break just to recover a little bit for the run. A 10-second break, if that could yield you a 20-second to 30-second faster mile pace, is totally worth it.
And Briggs and Haley Adams got to the bar at about the same time. Briggs was starting her second set a couple of seconds before Haley Adams. So Haley Adams is right there with Samantha Briggs as far as the run is concerned. Remember, they have to come back and return to their lane. That can skew the standings a little bit.
Haley Adams on the far right side of your screen. You see Tia Toomey and Holta working side by side. But if you talk about toes to bar volume, Haley Adams might be one of the best in the field. They train so much core work at CrossFit Mayhem, whether it's GHDs or toes to bar.
And Briggs has gone unbroken. Haley Adams is ready to finish up her set. Emily Rolfe and Chrissy Aramo O'Connell are also done, as are Tia Toomey and Danielle Brandon. Emma Carey finished up as well. They are on their second 1.5 mile run. Pardon me, Danielle Brandon was coming back into
same with
the North
Carey.
Park. Emma Carey as well. So Sam Briggs, who remains out front, Emily Rolfe, Christy Aramo O'Connell, Haley Adams, and Tia Toomey. Those are your top 5 on this second run.
Now this is the event right here, this second run.
Let's go down, pardon me, to Nikki Brazier.
So I'm here with Ben Smith, who's been coaching Laura Horvath. Came into this event solidly in second place today. Finished that first run somewhere in about middle of the pack. Is that around the strategy you guys were hoping for this?
Yeah, I think she's running her own race in this event. She'll get faster as we go through this event. So I think she's planning on pacing this one a little bit and trying to push that second half.
What has your coaching of her been like? This is a relatively new partnership, and I know that it helped her come into the country earlier, acclimate, work with you to prepare for this. What's that been like?
I mean, we just hang out and train together, so what she needs is someone to just be there and push her in training, and that was my job this year. So I was just programming and then pushing her in training.
I mean, who better than someone with as much competition experience as you? But now that you're out here as a coach rather than an athlete, how's that been for you?
I think I'm a little more nervous, actually. So I mean, I don't want to tell her that, but the nerves go away when you compete, and they don't go away when you spectate. So I get all my family saying how nervous they were all these years. So yeah.
Thanks so much, Ben. Best of luck to both of you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Always great to hear from the 2015 champ, Ben Smith.
Just one of the greatest male athletes to ever compete in the sport, and for the longevity that they did. We talk about teenage girls all the time that came on the scene. Annie Thorsauter. Ben Smith was one of the youngest men to compete at the CrossFit Games when he first started.
Samantha Briggs continues to lead. We were talking about Laura Horvath earlier, and she is in 17th place in this heat right now.
Here's the big thing: is we're looking at this test as a whole, because the cuts were announced right before the game started, and you saw a lot of hoes and hums like, how can you cut these athletes? Like, listen, we did 9 events before we made our first cut. It wasn't until 2012 where the CrossFit Games in total didn't have 9 events, and now that we're cutting to 10. So basically, we've run through 10 events that would have normally crowned the fittest man and woman to make a 10-person cut. What you want to make sure is that the programming is balanced and effective as we go through this. And a lot of times you'll see people's like, oh, we're running again. We're going to run again. Listen, not all running is created equal. It's the same thing as different weights on the barbell. Just because you're doing snatch or deadlift 3 times an event does not mean it's the same thing. So what do we saw? We saw a dead sprint for 500 meters, full out 100% max capacity. And then yesterday, we saw basically interval runs that totaled north of near a mile, but you got to break them up. It was a pacing strategy. Now we're running basically a 5K for time. So there's a lot of different ways you can mix in these monostructural events, and this is one of those pieces of the puzzle that we haven't fixed yet. A long aerobic running endeavor with high volume core and gymnastics in a 30-minute time frame that we haven't hit yet.
Sam Briggs, Chrissy Aramo O'Connell, and Emily Rolfe in a pack now at the front. And Emily Rolfe, given the distance that she and Briggs need to go to their lanes, is a little ahead of Briggs right now, even though she is behind her on this loop. First of 2 laps they need to complete here on this second 1.5 mile run.
See Haley Adams there sitting in 4th.
And Adams is right up there with Samantha Briggs and Chrissy O'Connell and Emily Rolfe. Her lane is the closest of those four to the entrance to the North Park. Big for Haley Adams. Had a tough couple of events yesterday, and then was able to turn it around in events 8 and 9, and now just sits 2 points out of 5th.
And she came out with a 2nd place finish in the handstand walk, 8th place finish on event number 9 with that high intensity bike power snatch couplet.
Ermo O'Connell has moved ahead of Samantha Briggs. Emily Rolfe sliding into 3rd, Haley Adams in 4th, and it's Tia Toomey who is in 5th as they start lap number 2 here. 2nd and final lap.
And the 4th 800 that we've seen so far, where this is really where it's going to come down to. You've had 3 opportunities to get your feel for the course, what the turns are like, if there's wind on one side, if there's a headwind or one from behind you. There's elevation changes all over this North Park area. And so now what you've done is you basically felt the course out for 3 800-meter laps. And this is the time where you start to make your moves where it's appropriate for you to do.
Past the now 16.5-minute mark here. Chrissy O'Connell, 7th overall after 9 events. With 633 points, she's 55 back of Haley Adams for 6th.
You see O'Connell making a move on Sam Briggs as well as Rolfe. And a lot of this comes down to that last run being at the most fatigued you're going to be for the entirety of this event. And athletes that I think fare well in that, as long as they keep training something similar, are triathletes. The last thing you have in that 3-part, you have swimming, you got biking, but then that run. A run at the end of a triathlon is a much different world, I would say universe, than it is on a fatigued run straight through. So having that experience, I think, for Chrissy O'Connell is paying off here towards the end. But Emily Rolfe is in the same position.
Ermo O'Connell, one of the 2 athletes who qualified for the CrossFit Games in the last chance qualifier. She is making the most of that second chance here. Her 6th career Games appearance. She was on a team in 2019. Her best finish was 8th in 2016. These are the point standings as far as the top 9 are concerned.
That should be enough points for O'Connell to close the gap on Haley Adams, but not enough to pass her. But maybe those 2 could move up the leaderboard together. And depending on where the others finish, they might occupy that 4th or 5th position.
There's Emily Rolfe, who is right up there up front with Chrissy O'Connell. Rolfe currently in 15th place overall. Relatively safe, but can certainly give herself a lot more breathing room with a strong performance here. Coming off a 12th place finish last night.
We just saw Haley Adams behind Sam Briggs, and this is the time where Haley needs to kick in a new gear and try to catch up to or get as close as she can to Sam Briggs before they get into the North Park, because Briggs has actually cycled toes to bar faster, a little faster than Haley. They both went unbroken twice, but Briggs' cycle time is a bit quicker. And Haley needs to start putting some buffers between her and other athletes. So if she can get ahead of Briggs, I know it's 4 points, and there's Haley right on the heels of Sam Briggs.
And given the distance they need to travel back in the North Park here to get to their lanes, she is about even, maybe ahead of Samantha Briggs. Tia Toomey rounding the corner. The good news for Haley Adams is she is well ahead of both Brooke Wells and Amanda Barnhart.
I said earlier, the toes to bar don't matter for these athletes unless you're coming down to a finish that involves everyone doing toes to bar at basically the same time. And now you can't take the break. You could have in the first 2 rounds maybe allow you to run faster, but this is coming down to who can hold on to the end of those 30 toes to bar. We've already done 60. We've basically pushed 3 miles about as hard as we can physically take. Do we have enough stamina in the core and I would say confidence in the lungs to hang on to that pull-up bar?
Approaching the 20-minute mark. Rolf and Aramo O'Connell back into North Park for the final time. 30 toes bar, and then a sprint to the finish.
And look how far they have to come into the North Park. Fortunately for them, they're pretty close to each other.
Chrissy Aramo O'Connell getting right to work. Rolf is on the left, O'Connell is on the right, and they are rep for rep through now 9, now 10 and 11 of those 30 toes to bar.
Even though Rolf is the longer athlete, she's cycling a hair faster than Aramo O'Connell.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Haley Adams has gotten to work on her toes to bar, as has Samantha Briggs. Here comes Tia Toomey on the right side of your screen.
Same thing for Briggs. What Briggs is doing is that she's tucking her heels back, cycling a bit quicker.
3 reps to go before Rolf and O'Connell, and it's going to wind up in a sprint. And Rolf is off first. Aramo O'Connell behind her, and Emily Rolf is going to take event 10. Aramo O'Connell will finish second.
Christy needed that, sitting in 7th at 6:33.
And now a sprint between Briggs and Haley Adams, and Adams is going to get the best of Samantha Briggs. Great result for Haley Adams as she comes across in 3rd place. Samantha Briggs will take 4th. Huge for Briggs, who's looking to work her way inside the top 20. And now here comes Tia Toomey, who will add more points to her lead. Kristen Holta is off.
Now we're looking at 4, 8, 12 more points that Haley Adams needs on Brooke Wells and Amanda Barnhart.
And Brooke Wells has just come back into the North Park and is the only woman working on her toes to bar right now.
And that's a great event for Brooke Wells.
Gabriella Magala is also on her toes to bar. Jacqueline Dahlstrom, Catherine Davidsdottir, and Mal O'Brien also on their final sets.
Now Wells only had a 2-point lead on Haley Adams, so she's going to lose that position on the leaderboard. But if Brooke Wells can get a top 10 finish at an event that had 5 kilometers of running in it.
There is Mal O'Brien, who had one of the more memorable performances so far here at the 2021 Noble CrossFit Games on Wednesday night when she outdueled Tia Toomey for her first career event win as an individual. And now Gabriella Magala is off ahead of Brooke Wells. Jacqueline Dahlstrom is on the right of your screen, and Magala, she is in. Catherine Davidsdottir is sprinting to the finish line, and Mal O'Brien is behind her. Davidsdottir is across, and now Mal O'Brien will be next to finish. Magala is going to take 7th, Wells will take 8th, Dahlstrom 9th, Davidsdottir 10th, and Mal O'Brien will finish in 11th. Laura Horvath just got to the toes to bar for her final set. Here comes Ariel Lowen. That's big for Lowen as she looks to stay inside the top 20. She takes 12th place with a time of 23:31.34 seconds. Laura Horvath is trying to hold off Kristen Holta for 2nd place right now. Have a 39-point lead on her.
We're starting looking at that cut line.
Amanda Barnhart is on her toes bar. She's on the right.
The only one that came in so far was Jacqueline Dahlstrom.
Now Turi Helgadottir is off the toes to bar. Annie Thorisdottir, Laura Horvath, and Danielle Brandon. Helgadottir is going to make it. Horvath cannot pass Brandon, but she is ahead of Annie Thorisdottir. Helgadottir takes 13th. Horvath is going to take 14th, and it's Thorisdottir in 15th. That's Emma McQuaid who is in.
So Sean, the 6 athletes we were talking about maybe getting cut on that 20 line. Dahlstrom was one of those. She was in 23rd.
Mackenzie Riley and Jess Griffith in a foot race. And Griffith looks like she overtakes Kenzie Riley. Griffith in 18th, Riley in 19th. Amanda Barnhart will be next across the finish.
That's huge for Haley Adams. Barnhart 20th unofficially. That's going to be 31 points for her. Haley got 92. That's 61 points Haley Adams just made up in one event.
Bailey Rail and Sydney Mikulichin have finished. Amelia Lepin, and here comes Carolyn Prevost trying to overtake Pacelli. Carolyn Prevost is in ahead of Pacelli. Remember, Pacelli came in 20th place overall.
Pacelli had 413 points. You said Dahlstrom finished, and she had 396. And that's only 17-point difference between them, so Dahlstrom has a higher point total now.
Reagan Huckabee getting set to cross the finish line. That is Laura Clifton, who came into this event in 21st place, 1 point back of Pacelli, and Pacelli has already finished as Emma Tall is off and done with her final set of toes to bar. And here comes Laura Clifton, hoping that she has done enough, but she will be towards the very bottom of this event.
I don't think Clifton's going to be in, but Dahlstrom has a shot. Pacelli also has an outside shot of staying in because Bailey Rail, who we thought was pretty clear of that cut line, she had a 23-point edge on Clifton. We haven't said her name yet. So Dahlstrom, who's in 23rd, may sneak him into the top 20, and depending on where athletes finish with Rail, she may fall out, and she was sitting in 19th, so that might open it up back for Alessandra Pacelli.
Well, Rail took 22nd, and that's going to be good for 25 points. Ellie Turner is the last woman on the field. And there is Alessandra Pacelli on the bottom right, hoping that she did enough to stay alive here and move on.
Well, Pacelli got 26th. That's 13.
And there goes Ellie Turner.
So Rail might have done enough ahead of Pacelli to maybe not fall out of the 19. It could be sitting in that 20th place position.
Tia Toomey, meanwhile, just another top 5 finish, 5th place. She'll take 84 points. Talking things over with Kristen Polta, who finished in 6th. And that is the end of event 10 for the women.